Hello everybody, I'm Alexey the AI Committee Architect at Neo4j. Here we're on location at Linux Foundation Members Summit with Adam Miller, who is a distinguished engineer at Red Hat.
Hi, great to be with you.
Welcome, Adam. And I used to be at IBM. Red Hat is a part of IBM, so very good to see, Red Hatters. I am a Red Hat user since 1998. I bought a box set at Borders, and I compiled a lot of stuff. Right, so huge fan, and Adam has a tattoo of the Red Hat. This is amazing, right?
So yeah, my Shadow Man tattoo actually predates my time at Red Hat. It was my personal 10-year anniversary in the Red Hat open source ecosystem. And then I've got Ansible on this side. That was my personal 5-year anniversary from my first pull request accepted upstream into Ansible Core. And I was a maintainer of Ansible Core for about a little over 10 years. And I still do some stuff when I find time, but who has the time?
Fantastic. And so we chatted with Adam before. We felt we have so many points of interest which are in common. So OpenShift AI.
Yes.
You work in OpenShift AI. What is OpenShift AI? Tell us about it.
So OpenShift AI is Red Hat's MLOps, LLMOps platform built on top of OpenShift, which is our distribution of Kubernetes, being a container orchestration platform. We're heavily invested in a lot of upstream open source technologies around the MLOps and LLMOps space. I'm here at this event as a Red Hat representative, but also as the chair of the LFAI and Data MLOps committee. And I'm looking around and having the opportunity to talk to many of the people who are like-minded and working on similar things. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been really, really great to have the opportunity to do this. And so a lot of our foundational technologies are, kubeflow, kserve, Feast, PyTorch, VLLM, primitives of Kubernetes, dynamic resource allocation, InstaSlice, et cetera, et cetera. We have a lot of upstream open source things
You just dropped so many cool names. VLLM was, it's Neural Magic, acquired by Red Hat.
Yes.
We've done a lot of meetups with VLLM. So I run Bay Area AI, the longest running, deepest technical AI meetup in the world.
Awesome.
For about 12 years. And so we were the first to host VLLM as a part of AI Alliance, which is also Red Hat and IBM a part of, right? And I was a co-founder of it when I was at IBM, and I'm still co-chair of the community group. And so we basically give the platform to VLLM folks. I think Priyanka met them at that meetup, and they were part of Keynote at KubeCon. So that's like a connection right there.
Yeah.
Like all communities are connected. And IBM and Red Hat contribute to PyTorch. So this is kind of all coming together.
Yes.
Right.
And I recently started working with some Red Hatters. For me, it's a hobby project. For them, it's a real thing. Ramalama, which is kind of an alternative to Olama that is focused on just directly container native technologies and using OCI as a format to deliver models instead of
This is yet again an awesome connection, because I'm a huge fan of Llama CPP, and this is all descendants, right?
Yes.
I just attended a talk at FOSDEM, which was a low-level AI hackers dev room by Roman Shapashnik, and basically the whole idea is like, how do hackers get into this AI space?
Yeah.
Right. Instead of sending strings to OpenAI and swiping a credit card periodically and becoming a string programmer, like what can you do as a hacker? To me, like running models on all kinds of hardware, all kinds of environments, shrinking it, distilling, making sure like you can have control over it.
Yes.
That's like what hackers want to do.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have, so you mentioned Llama CPP. So Ramalama utilizes Llama CPP as our model runtime. And then we have pre-baked images that are the backing runtime. So when you run Ramalama, the command line tool, it's a Python library. You can pip install it. You can download it from a few different package managers of RPM-based distros. We're working on getting some packages into Debian and Ubuntu and beyond. But it'll pull a container image on the back end. It'll run it with Podman by default. It'll fall back to Docker if you have Docker. It'll also work on your Mac or your Windows machine. And it'll do CPU, and it will have support for AMD, NVIDIA, and Intel. The new Intel Lunar Lake and newer NPU-enabled hardware. So we're trying to round it out and just make it very easy for developers and hackers to just get started and play with it locally on the hardware you have. Your performance might not be as what you might want, depending on what your hardware is. But no, it's getting it into the hands of the developers, letting them play with it, and not have to worry about external factors.
Okay, cool. So, like, I can't help like going back in history, right?
Yeah,
so
please do.
you're the MLOps guy who's been around when Ansible was being built, and so I remember, right, when all these tools first appeared. This was kind of magic, right? Because now suddenly, you can spin up a bunch of machines with a bunch of YAML.
Yes.
And suddenly you become a YAML engineer.
Right.
So that kind of predated even the Kubernetes, right? Like
Yes.
you configure stuff in YAML, right? And Salt did this, right?
Yes.
Ansible, like so. So I'm super curious, right? It's like so you have this whole path, and now you lead the MLOps committee at LFAI. So how do you see, like, as a guy who's seen it all, like, what's the role of MLOps in the AI era?
Oh my gosh. I think so there's kind of three terms that have branched off of MLOps. So we have LLM ops, Gen AI ops, and then AI ops. And everybody has different definitions.
Why is it not DevOps? Like it's still all DevOps, right?
It is. It's different. If we break it down, it's different flavors of DevOps.
Right.
It is DevOps that take into account the unique criteria of serving an ML model or predictive AI, a generative AI, large language model specifically, but then also like multimodal Gen AI, and the things that matter to your infrastructure and the things that matter to like your data scientists and your dev teams and your AI researchers are different of what you have to deliver from a platform perspective, which is why there's like these different kind of Venn diagram. It's like MLOps is kind of the overarching term, and then if you zoom out, it's DevOps, and then if you get inside the MLOps bubble, then you have the different layers of these different specialties that kind of have that. So it's just it's a lot about that and making sure that you're catering to the user and the persona of what you need to deliver the appropriate workload.
Right. And it's all because basically you have this beast, you have this large language model which can encompass secrets, right? Which can leak and slurps all your corporate data into it.
Yeah.
And so like you're terrified of basically making it show up on torrents.
Right. So when you're doing like guardrails and eval and things like that, so in OpenShift AI we use a thing called Trusty AI, which does your eval and your guardrails and things like that. Making sure you're not leaking things, making sure you're being aware of and preventing bias, and making sure the model doesn't go crazy.
Right. So this being Linux Foundation, I wonder, is all of this open source?
Yes, 100%.
Wow. This is awesome, right? Like soup to nuts.
Yes, everything.
And OpenShift as well. So if I'm a hacker somewhere, I'm a developer, I want to try OpenShift, I can get the OpenShift distribution, which is open source, and all these pieces in it, which was open source.
Yep. And we also have a community upstream of OpenShift, a release called OKD, and then we have an upstream of OpenShift AI called Open Data Hub. So so we have upstreams of everything. It's all developed out in the open. We welcome contribution, we welcome collaborative, and then we often call ODH Open Data Hub, ODH a midstream, because ODH itself has various components that are upstream. Inside of ODH there are novel, fresh, new open source repositories that we compose together and make a thing. Some of them are Kubeflow and Kserve and Feast and Trusty AI, and those have their own upstreams, and we participate up in those. We have a number of engineers who are on steering committees or have committer rights to the various repositories, because it matters to us, and we want to invest and make sure that the community is healthy and continuing to innovate.
All right. So again, we're here at Linux Foundation. We're both members of LFAI.
Yes.
And so Red Hat and Neo4j actually are general members, right? And the parent company of Red Hat IBM is a premium member. So, and we basically, I think we have an interesting moment in LFAI history. We kind of have changing of the guard, right? So we'll have the new executive director coming in. We have new directors elected. One of them is from Red Hat, and Brett is obviously, a pair of hands who's been around. He's the chair of the board.
Yes.
So, and it's like, how long do you lead this MLOps committee?
Oh, I'm still very new to it. It's been about 2 months ago. I just started. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and Easy leads the tech. So I just interviewed Easy before.
Yeah.
So similar conversation. So we are kind of, and Neo4j just joined December, right? So I'm kind of also, I've been around Gen AI Commons. I was the first chair of Gen AI Commons, which is a part of LFAI. But as the member, we're starting out. So I think it's really up to us.
Yeah.
To make whatever we want LFAI to be.
Yes.
Right? And so, like, what is your vision for MLOps committee? What do you want people to do on it?
So one of the big things that I want to try to do is, it's kind of like threefold, is one, working with other efforts that are happening. So OPIA, and Gen AI Commons, the CNCF, geez, I forget what, I think theirs is also called AI Commons. You know, finding these other collaborative efforts to make sure that of the things we want to do, we're not duplicating effort, making sure that we're finding collaborative opportunities, and then with like OPIA, like they've got these like very well documented enterprise architectures, and I want to take those and then create actual reference architecture implementations using the open source technologies, because each of the projects do a wonderful job of documenting themselves and evangelizing for themselves, but I want to put all of the pieces together into a cohesive story about this is how you create an MLOps or an LLM ops platform using open source technology, and highlight why the community in these open source projects are the forefront of that innovation, and then try to communicate to the world like that's where it's happening. This is what matters, and this is why it's important. And I want to create things that people can deploy on their laptops in their home labs to like tinker with these things and learn. So I want to create some things that are easily installable through Customize or Helm and things like that, and then ready to go materials, so slide decks and things like that, so people can do meetups and talk about these things. And then I also want to get other kind of industry leaders to join the group, and then also kind of evangelize for like this is the path forward, this is the innovation location, and then we've already hit a point where these building blocks, when you assemble them together in a certain way, there's already a number of vendors who offer a solution that are kind of built on top of those. And so, the idea is educating people, showing them how it's done, and then if they want to build it themselves out of the upstream, out of the community space, they absolutely can. If they don't want to do that and they'd rather just have a vendor, just have the list of vendors and just tell them, like, go pick one,
Right. No, this is perfect. So I really love it, and can't help connecting the dots here. So we're both also members of AI Alliance.
Yes.
Right, and there is the focus area 3, which is DevTools, where folks talk about end-to-end Gen AI apps and recipes. Right, and recipes are using Granite, like this is IBM, right?
Yes.
So using Granite models and data prep kit and instruct lab and all this good stuff, right? So I think like the idea of having a bunch of recipes for different parts. So you're talking about that at the MLOps level.
Yes.
But people talk about it at the application level, right? And ideally, when we build an application, we know that it comes with corresponding observability, CI/CD, right? Whatever guardrails, right?
Yes.
So kind of building an app with the necessary MLOps support probably will be easier than thinking of the app first and then having some notebooks and then like productizing it later.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that's very powerful about Kubernetes and about the fact that it's a container orchestration platform that you can make generic or specialized in whatever way that you want. So if you want to have multiple clusters that are specialized for certain things, you can do that, or you could actually serve your applications the same place that you do your inference, or you just your model serving, depending on what your models are doing. And like there's just a lot of flexibility there, and sometimes it's just about educating people and trying to save them the struggle of going and learning everything and having to piece it together themselves, but giving them a good starting point.
Right.
And trying to create a catalytic event or a catalytic effect of just allowing people to kind of like get into this space and see the value and the power in it.
Right. No, I really like kind of this combination, right? So first of all, you want people to build stuff.
Yes.
Right, and you want to members to build components, right? The building blocks that you can compose into this platform.
Yes.
Right, and I love this, right? Because like very often, if you get a bunch of people in the committee, they start having a bunch of meetings. Maybe they'll produce a long document. Right. Like we don't want a document without GitHub repos.
Yes.
Right? We want a document which points to Docker containers, which points to GitHub repos, which points to documentation.
Absolutely.
Right? So the next question, how do we do that? Right? Like this is so you have a blank slate. You're the new guy. The new broom sweeps well. Right? So like I think you're in a position to guide this committee, and so kind of how do we go about? We have excellent members in this foundation. If you look at them, right, that's the top roster. But what often happens, like a fraction of them are here,
Right.
right? If you go to a vendor event, they're all there,
Right.
right? Like any vendor will have their own thing. Databricks will have all the Databricks DevRel, Snowflake, AWS reInvent will be full of AWS excellent people, and Google Next will have those, right? They're all members of LFAI. So question like how do, and like that's an open question, right? I'm kind of thinking aloud. So we have among us excellent DevRel capacity, right? And a lot of smart people, they all, I think, agree that open source ecosystem is better than everybody composes and plays with everybody else.
Yes.
Majority of cases, right? So how do we like go out to members? If you remember, please make notes here. Like how do we go to the members and convince them they should join MLOps committee and put their heads together and work together?
So I have a number of draft documents that are kind of, first off, it's the charter. Second off, it's kind of work stream proposals. So I'm trying to shop that around right now to those members and find out, get feedback. Does this resonate? Is this a thing that people want to participate in?
Yeah.
And then once I get enough validation and ratification and kind of sign off that, yeah, this is a thing, then I'm going to start doing work towards that. And I'm going to try to convince other people to dedicate their time and efforts towards that, and hopefully we get to some sort of milestone and checkpoints, and we can reconvene. And the big thing is just finding the collaborative elements, making sure that we're not doing something that somebody else has already done, because I don't want to just do it again so we can slap our name on it.
Right.
I want to make sure that we're pushing the narrative forward in a positive way.
Where can members find these proposals?
So right now they are all, you would actually have to go to our Slack channel in LFAI and data, the Slack, MLOps Slack channel.
Okay.
They're pinned in there. They're open Google Docs for everybody to read and review. If you want to request edit access, I'll gladly give it to you. I'm not picky. there's always
Maybe just start with comments first.
Yeah, we do comments and feedback, and we go from there and just get that. Yeah, so we're working on, once that's done, the result of that will then turn into our new website. Because right now the MLOps committee website on LFI and Data's website is rather bare.
Yeah.
So.
No, this is great. So, and how do you see, so it looks like you would benefit from collaboration with other committees. I think of outreach and I think of tech.
Yes.
Right? Like what's your ideas about this?
So outreach, once we have something to offer, so the outreach can utilize those kind of, materials that can be shared. I want to work with them to kind of evangelize for those things. TAC, I want to find a way as new projects come in and get reviewed by TAC. If there are collaborative opportunities or a way for them to kind of plug into what we're doing, I would love to, kind of have an opportunity to kind of jumpstart those types of relationships. GenAI Commons, they have a reference architecture work stream that they just started, and actually by virtue of being at this conference, I made a connection with somebody in GenAI Commons who said, they're like, oh, well, why don't you just show up to GenAI Commons, sign up for that work, and then the MLOps committee can do it, and then that's a collaborative point there.
Correct.
So just finding these things and doing that is kind of the between now and into the near future. That's the plan.
And also on tech, right? We just talked to Easy. I would actually propose that you don't wait until them to approve something, because let's say you see some open source project which is worthy of being proposed to tech, right?
Okay.
Like you can be one of the people who brings it. So what I personally found, like that process, when talking with Easy about that, it also needs some update, because very often you would see a project which has just one company behind it, right? And like one repo, all of the contributors work for the company, very sparse, like work in there. And so I think at tech, we really want projects which are developed by multiple companies, which has multiple contributions validated by the community, active work, documentation, and some like basically vibrant projects, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's the general reason open source is so amazing, community is so amazing, is it's bigger than any one company. Right,
and so I think like MLOps is one of the fastest growing parts, basically, of open source AI. And I would say if you're out there, you probably would be one of the people who, in the MLOps committee, that will spot this project's worth of inviting into LF. They may even not know it. And what I learned today from Todd Moore, our indefatigable leader, that we have started a program that startups could join for free for a year.
I did not know that.
So
that's awesome.
I'm spreading this word, right? So if you're a startup and a lot of AI startups are MLOps startups, observability.
Yes.
They discovered, right? I'm amazed. Like kids discover observability, TF-IDF, CI/CD, all the things which exist for many years. But this is great. Like now they all apply to AI. So perfect. Like if you are building a startup in this space and you have open source, right? We're open source foundation, real open source. We want open source OSI approved license. If you have that stuff, bring it to us, right? Talk to us, and you will get another amazing community platform distribution to bring it to people, right? And if it's really good, that may actually become a project.
Absolutely.
Right, and so that's another thing. Awesome. So I'm really excited. Like again, meeting people at this LF events, and I just like mentioned briefly, we're having Neo4j and partners, LangChain, Llama Index, Zilis, and others. We're working on something called OAKS, which is Open Agent Knowledge Stack.
Awesome.
So this is the question: like, how do you integrate knowledge, right, into the application? So I'm basically thinking along the same vein as you. So kind of, let's say we have a piecemeal integration. For instance, we have a production package, Neo4j, LangChain integration that we have Python GraphRag, which maintained by both companies,
right,
which is full open source,
which
is well documented on both LangChain website and Neo4j website. Now you can use that, but you can use it with something like Milvus for VectorRag or some other. So we basically have also a series of recipes which we want to collect, right? So I think that kind of approach, collect a bunch of recipes, gather partners who maintain these recipes, and then let's say we do an event. We can invite several people from this umbrella, and they can all present, and then we can show a demo, hopefully, where this stuff all works together. Right?
Absolutely.
And like now we know where to look for MLOps underpinnings. Maybe we should Dockerize it, right?
Yeah, wonderful.
Dockerize it, put it in OpenShift. So, we'd really like to have more people, right? Who will bring us these recipes and, and all this.
And I love getting to meet new people who've done this in different environments, because everybody has a new aspect of expertise, because every set of variables is different.
Right.
And that's what's so great about the collaborative nature, bringing everybody together, because it's the collective knowledge that's bigger than any one of us.
And we'll both join today the open source academic panel. I wonder what's your angle on academics, like how is this of interest to you?
Oh my gosh, so we work with a number of universities, specifically Boston University is kind of a primary one, and we have a number of things kind of, I guess, lower in the stack, so network routing, traffic shaping, things like that, RDMA over converged Ethernet, various aspects of like how to optimize that, how to put that into kind of routing layers of pieces of Kubernetes and things like that. So there's just research projects that academics are working on that we're kind of advising on, and we're taking their feedback, and we're implementing things, and then they have an environment where we're able to deploy and do testing, and as part of the Massachusetts Open Cloud. And there's a lot of so Massachusetts Open Cloud, a lot of very cool efforts happening there, and I'm just grateful to be part of it.
And they're also, Mass Cloud is a big part of the AI Alliance, right? So it all connects. I was just thinking, like, you're in Texas, how come Boston? But then I realized they have expertise in that area.
They do, absolutely.
And they have the Mass Cloud, so this is good. All right, thank you very much, Adam. We look forward to collaborate with you in LFAI in the community and join us in this amazing efforts.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Cheers.